Yeah, that is a tough act to follow. Thanks for that, Razor. On the bright side, I have 8 seconds left, so thank you very much. No, seriously, thank you to TechTO. Really appreciate being invited out. It's definitely an honor. It's been an impressive group of speakers that have come through here, and now me, the recruiting guy. So I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit today when I was kind of thinking about what I might have to offer the crowd, if anything. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about tales and learnings from co-founder heaven and hell. So I wanted to stay as far away from the recruitment topic as possible, and had some good experiences and some bad experiences in the co-founding world, and thought maybe I can share some lessons that could potentially, hopefully, be useful to some people. So to start out, thought I'd talk a little bit about why have a co-founder. I'm definitely in the pro camp here. In spite of having good and bad experiences, more good than bad. Obviously, primary consideration for a tech recruiting company, VC investment. But to the crowd here, I thought it might be something that would be relevant, and I happened to be reading Venture Deals at the same time, and they talked about not funding solopreneurs. So if you're out looking for VC money and you are a solopreneur, you could have greater challenges finding money. Support. Being an entrepreneur is tough. You go through a lot of difficult situations. There's some phenomenal groups like Ace Tech, EO, Founder City, things like that are great support structures, but there's really truly no replacement for having somebody who's kind of there in the trenches with you to help you through those difficult times. So I found that personally very valuable. Perspective. Sometimes you get a little too close to things, and it's good to have somebody there who understands where you're coming from, but maybe has a little bit of a different angle on things and can offer you a different perspective and just kind of help you see things more clearly. Brainstorming. I definitely don't have all the answers. 2 heads are better than 1, so it's nice to be able to bat around some of the more difficult problems and stuff that you're going to run into. Balance. For me personally, a very big one. I like to travel. I've been to 57 countries. Without a very understanding co-founder, that would not be possible, so definitely very thankful for that. Shared stress. It gets crazy. Starting a business, you never know what to expect. Lots of challenges that you run into, and having somebody who you can kind of share that burden and that workload with is very valuable. No one is good at everything. If you think you are more than likely delusional. I think a key to success is figuring out what your weaknesses are and having people around you who complement those weaknesses, co-founders and otherwise. And even if you happen to be delusional enough to believe you are good at everything, there's not enough time to do it all anyway. So maybe some quick tales and learnings from personal experience. I thought I'd give a little bit of background on a couple co-founding experiences. For me, GuruLink obviously co-founded 15 years ago, had 2 co-founders originally. Things were going great at first, and then we sort of quickly realized that one of us was maybe not working quite as hard as the others. So fast forward several years, because I'm a little thick and it takes a while to learn, and some difficult conversations, we eventually ended up having to exit him. We gave him an ultimatum ultimately. He just wasn't producing, and he came back after about 6 months and acknowledged the fact that it just wasn't working and made us a fairly reasonable offer in terms of buying out his shares. And so it all ended up fairly amicably, but still not a fun experience, and definitely got some learnings out of that. I also co-founded a very unsuccessful software startup. On the surface, it seemed great. We had a really good idea. Phenomenal founder that we'd known for years, done business with, been at a bunch of high-profile companies in a kind of growth, marketing, user acquisition, business side of things. We have connections, obviously, with good tech people. So it seemed like a sensible partnership. We agreed, in hindsight, very stupidly, to a 50-50 agreement right out of the gate. So papered it all. And I found myself about 4 months in at 3, 4 in the morning, accepting stories in Pivotal Tracker, writing the stories in Pivotal Tracker, testing the application, writing the bug reports, setting up the meetings, going to the meetings, and we were supposed to be the money side of things. So we tried to revisit that conversation. He still felt he was entitled to the 50% in spite of not having delivered on what our agreement was, and so things fairly quickly dwindled from there. So some tales and learnings, I guess, that I've taken away from those personal experiences. Don't assume because you have a long-standing friendship you'll be suitable co-founders. So the original co-founder from GuruLink that we had to exit, I'd known for 5 or 6 years before I started the company. Kind of perhaps foolishly thought that based on that relationship it would make for a good foundation for founders. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Same but different. I don't know if anyone's been to Vietnam or Thailand, but if so, that'll be familiar. Basically, you want to find someone who has same core values, ideals, philosophies in life as you, but is different, who will challenge you and whose strengths will complement your weaknesses. Find people who remove obstacles, not create them. I'm sure we've all run into people on each side. Unfortunately, we had a couple of experiences where there was always a reason for which things weren't being done. In my view, as a founder, I'm sure some of you are familiar, you'll be up at 5 a.m. if something needs to get done, sometimes no sleep maybe even. Similar commitment is critical. The original co-founder that we exited from GuruLink, we found about 4 or 5 years in, he was being quoted on other websites as the managing director of another company. And at the time, we were splitting profits equally. That didn't seem reasonable to us, but he likened it to investing in Google, which we had to disagree on, and was certainly sort of the impetus for things falling apart for us. Work with people who have strong opinions, loosely held, and everyone, you know, Halliday. But you want to be able to get into healthy debates. We've had people in the past who just debated for the sake of debating. We'd say the sky is blue, he'd say it was aquamarine. And then the GuruLink case, the original co-founders seemed to have no opinions whatsoever, never mind strong ones. Don't allocate equity too quickly. Big mistake we made for sure in the software startup. We agreed to 50-50 out of the gate with no deliverables, no objectives in terms of how people would actually earn that equity, and that came back to bite us for sure. Have a shareholders agreement in place. Unfortunately, had to default back to that in both cases. The first case, we had all been good friends for a long time before, so it was 3 or 4 years before we even had one, and had we not had one, it could have been a pretty ugly situation. That was avoided. Lean into hard conversations. Don't let things drag on too long, kind of like this speech. But that's definitely something that was hard. It was a good friend of mine that I'd known for years before. So you kind of, you graze the surface of those conversations, but we had to get to the point where we had to almost put out an ultimatum. It's kind of like a marriage. You actually do spend more time with your co-founder than you will with your significant other, especially waking hours. You're gonna go through some tough times. You need someone who you know will be there for you and that you'll be there for them in those tough times, and super important. It's not all gonna be easy. And the right co-founder will make your business more successful and your life happier. I've been pretty fortunate and blessed in that way. I'm thankful for that, and thank you for listening. Oh, I still have time?
You still have to answer questions.
Hi, thanks a lot for that. But when do you actually take the leap of faith from, so you had a success story and a learning experience, but in both the scenarios, when did you actually go from the stage of ideation to, yeah, let's do this? And when do you actually walk out of this? Because, you know, it's just like starting a new relationship. You're not going to go out after just 6 or 7 dates. So when do you actually go in full, and then when do you actually say this is not working? Is it 18 months? Is it 24 months? Like,
great question. And I'm not sure I really have the right answer. I messed it up 2 out of 3 times. But you know, for myself, I felt comfortable. I'd known the people for a long time. In particular, ironically, my current business partner, who I founded the company with as well, didn't know nearly as well. In hindsight, what I realized is that we definitely balance each other out. The person we had to exit, we were almost maybe too similar. So you want to find somebody who you kind of know and have a bit of a track record with, or at least can really point to serious accomplishments that they've had in the past, and people who kind of get things done. The exact right time for that, it's hard to say. And in terms of getting out of it, I think we probably let things go on a little bit too long. And so that's something I would caution people against. If you kind of see that those reasons for things not getting done continue to rear their head, that's a huge red flag. And as somebody that I'd known for a long time, we let that go on for quite a while before we got into those harder conversations. So I would see if you see those things rearing their head, then address the conversation sooner rather than later.
Last question, where is it?
Hey again. Just wondering, on your experience, how do you go about looking for co-founders?
I had a feeling somebody would ask that, and I'm not sure that I have a great answer for that. I know there's somebody out here looking. Are you looking for a co-founder? There's a guy there. You do mobile? So I'm not sure if I have a perfect answer for that. I mean, there's founder dating, things like that. I think, to be honest with you, it's probably people that you've worked with in the past. I mean, it's hard to go on a few dates, as the analogy was there, and really know what you're getting yourself into. I think having some context from personal exposure over time and seeing that people really have an ability to get things done and similar ideals to you, and passion and conviction and that kind of stuff. So I think, personal opinion, I don't know if this is truly accurate or not, but having had a little bit longer exposure and maybe even people that you've worked with or been close to in that context, as opposed to, I think, meeting somebody randomly and meeting them a few times, you could get lucky, but I think it's a bit of a roll of the dice.
Thank you.
Thank you.